Okay, so first I want to say thanks, guys, for watching my videos about the Darrell Brooks case. Um, and then I want to make a few comments about some of the comments I've been receiving after making those three videos. Um, the first point I'd like to make is that if you watch the first part in the series, you'll see that I said from the beginning that I did not follow the entire case. I did not follow the entire case deliberately. A lot of these high profile cases are extremely emotionally charged. And so I didn't want to comment on it from an emotional standpoint. Um, I wanted to comment on it from from a neutral position if I could come from a neutral position. However, I'd like to say just because you didn't follow the entire case does not mean you're not informed, right? You're not fully informed, but you're informed. That being said, I prefer to read rather than watch videos. So I read some things. There were a lot of things that I was unclear about that I read. So when I made these videos, I did not assert them as facts because again, I knew I did not follow the entire case. Um, I did not watch witness testimony prior because again, witness testimony typically is emotionally charged. So again, I didn't want to go that route. I wanted to look at it just from him and what he had to say, and whether just from what he had to say could prove whether he was innocent or not. Also, the last thing I want to say about being informed is that ironically, those who claim that I should have watched the entire trial didn't watch my entire commentary, which came in three parts. Um, and not doing so, they didn't recognize that I was playing devil's advocate from a position of neutrality, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later because I don't really want this video to be extremely long. But just to give you a glance at this, if you come and look at the video, just this one part two has 120 comments, a lot of negative. The first part, is it linked on here? I don't think so. Um, the first part has a lot of negative videos, and I've also gained some subscribers as a result. But I just wanted to kind of look at that. So 71 comments, but it has a lot of negative comments because I think people didn't understand where I was coming from. Um, so my second point, this is responding to the comments, so I don't have to respond to every comment. I don't know if people understand how overwhelming it can be to try to respond thoughtfully to every comment. Um, that being said, point number two is the reason I focused on, and I'm reading notes just for transparency. I'm reading notes that I've taken as I read through the comments. I even went back and listened to all three of my commentaries on the case just to make sure that I didn't miss something, um, or I didn't realize I said something or what have you. So I went back and watched all of these videos, and just for transparency's sake, this is December 18th, 6:09 a.m. I'm making this video because it kind of weighed on me some of the things that people were saying, and I think I wasn't clear about my intentions in making the video, so I'm gonna clear some things up again. So that's what I'm doing. Again, point number two is the reason I focused on the recall issue was to prove that he was culpable, even if there was a recall, right? Now, in the third video, I said some things that I probably shouldn't have said, and I'm going to address those a little bit later. But if you watch the first two videos, okay, I'm real subtle and real careful about whether I'm saying he's guilty or not, even though I already had my own opinion based on the things that I have read and some of the news footage I had saw, even without watching the witness testimony. Okay. Um, the other thing about that the recall issue was, as far as I'm aware, and even in researching it again after people made comments, there was one inspector, right? And I just, for me, there's still room for doubt and plenty of other people's mind. Remember, I was playing devil's advocate at the time. Was if there's one inspector saying something, does it make it true? Right? So that's kind of the space I was coming from, and it wasn't clear. And I didn't make it clear that I did kind of have an inkling of certain information about the case. And I've learned a lot more since I made the commentary as well. And again, maybe I should have spent more time looking at the case before I commented. But I thought, commenting from a place of neutrality wouldn't be so controversial in the sense of if you just look at what he had to say and supposing if what he had to say was true. Point number three. I was fully aware before making the commentary of the videos of him swerving through the crowd. Okay? So the reason why I made the commentary in the position of neutrality again was because some people would argue that the video was not what it seemed. We don't know what was happening behind the wheel. We weren't behind the wheel with him. So me understanding that is the reason why I took that position, because I knew other people would take a position of either neutrality or devil's advocate for good reasons and some for bad reasons, just because they didn't want to see, because unfortunately race is the hot topic these days. Some people just don't want to see another black man go to jail. So they would take a position of neutrality, right, or devil's advocate, in order to say, well, it was an accident, right? And so I took that same stance and said, well, do I still see him as innocent if I took that same stance? And again, I was not clear that that was the position that I was operating from, right? So, and just the last piece on that is that some people might say him swerving in the video was him trying to avoid people. And again, if you, I don't believe that. I don't agree with that. But I didn't make that clear when I made the video that I was already aware of the video of him running through the crowd. Okay. Point number 4. Intentions. I mentioned intentions, and said intentions have to do with character. It proves that someone is evil. It proves evil character. And I think people misunderstood what I was talking about when I made the analogy about theft, okay? If you go back and listen to it, what you'll find is, as I said, wrong is wrong. Okay, whether you intentionally did something wrong or you didn't intend to do something wrong initially, and so it doesn't. To me, it did. If you caught what I was saying, I said it doesn't matter whether he intentionally drove into the crowd or he didn't. He still did something wrong, right? Especially he did something wrong if he's claiming that the vehicle malfunctioned and he doesn't indicate whether he had prior knowledge of that malfunction. So again, operating from that space of neutrality, I was like, well, he's still wrong. I even at when I made that comment and that analogy, I called it an alleged accident, you know, which would imply I didn't think it was an accident. But a lot of people missed that and thought that I was calling it an accident when I said it was an alleged accident. Okay. In addition, I did say it was an accident one time in all the and one time in the first two videos. Okay, and then I corrected myself. I immediately corrected myself and called it an incident because I was trying to play neutral, so that that's clear. Now, again, whether you agree with my position or whatever, or commentary is not particularly important, but I do want to make sure that my stance and position is clear and people don't mischaracterize me in the things that I have to say. Okay. Number 5. Excuse me, as you hear paper flipping. And going back to the throttle body recall. Specifically, I did not affirm his claim about the recall. You actually saw footage of me pulling up the recall saying there's no throttle body recall. I pulled it up from the Department of Transportation myself. I did that so people could see, even though I had heard rumors of that allegation, or that, excuse me, rumors of that claim. And I waited for it to be said by him in his closing arguments, and then I pulled it up asking, well, is that true? Just to prove how easy it was to do your own research about it, even if you gave him the benefit of the doubt, right? Also, I presented you guys with the idea that it could only be called an accident if the SUV malfunctioned and he had no prior knowledge of the recall. So I wasn't claiming it was an accident unless, again, playing that neutrality role, unless he had no prior knowledge, right? Because you're culpable if you have prior knowledge, right? So I made the case that Brooks was still culpable even if his claims were true about the recall, okay? And then I also said, for the sake of the argument, let's say the vehicle was doing exactly what he said, right? So, especially in the first two videos of commentary, part 1 and part 2, I made it clear that I was just giving him the benefit of the doubt, but I still find him culpable every time I give him the benefit of the doubt. Every time I'm raising questions, I find him culpable. Every time I ask this, he still seems culpable. So again, my focus when I was making the video was those who still thought there was benefit of doubt in place for him, right? And I'm sitting up here giving commentary and saying, even without watching every piece of the trial, I find him culpable, right? Now, let me correct certain things that I did say. And this is point number 6. I want to correct, and I want to probably spend more time on this than anything else. I said just because he was found guilty, this is point number 6. I said just because he was found guilty doesn't mean he is guilty. First, let me say that was a poor choice of words on my part. Now, let me reiterate. I was trying to present a neutral position while also proving that he was culpable for his actions. Let me say that again. I was trying to present a neutral position while also proving that he was culpable for his actions. So even if you gave him the benefit of the doubt, I was showing that he still was at fault. Even if he knew there was a recall, even if he knew that the throttle body wasn't acting properly, he still drove the vehicle. He still ran over people. People died. People were injured. And so that was point that I was trying to make. And if people didn't catch it, I'm sorry. Maybe I should have made that more clear. But I did use a poor choice of words there. Um, let's see, what else do I have here? So again, I said I wrote down this. If you listen to the entire series, I subtly suggest that Brooks is guilty, whether you give him the benefit of the doubt or not. And I think I already said that, but I want to read my notes to make sure I hit all my points. Here's the other thing I said in the third video. Yes, it's in the third. It's in part 3. What I said, and I'm gonna backtrack on that. I said I think it was an accident in the third video. I did say that. Okay. Even that was a poor choice of words. I said it was an accident, and that he knew it was malfunctioning. He didn't want to take responsibility for a malfunctioning vehicle, so he wanted to call it an accident, right? When I said that, how can I explain this? When I said that, what I was trying to say is that even if you believe him, okay, that it was an accident, he was still at fault. Okay? He was still at fault, even if you thought it was an accident. And just because you believe it's an accident doesn't mean he doesn't have blame or liability. And I tried to make that clear throughout all 3 of the videos. But I think that I wasn't very clear with my intentions, right? I wasn't very clear with my intentions and what I was trying to accomplish, because what I have read about the case and what I did see about the case, despite the things that I didn't look at the case, even if there was only one inspector, right? Because that could cause somebody. There was only one inspector. Where 4 and 5 inspectors to say the same thing? Witness testimony, again, even if you could disregard the witness testimony and say, well, they were there, they were emotionally charged, what have you. Even if you try to dismiss all of that, you still find culpability on his part just because of what he said, right? Everything he said puts blame squarely in his 2 hands, right? So again, I use poor words at certain times, and I'm gonna admit to that, all right? Because this is men against nonsense, and so if I use words or misspoke or was unclear about my intentions and what I was doing, I have to clear that up, make clarifications, and this is what I'm doing now. All of that aside, and I know I'm still going to get a bunch of comments, probably negative comments, and that's fine. We don't all have to agree. Men Against Nonsense, again, is a movement which includes having conversations about hard topics, okay? And being responsible for your own actions, words, and deeds, right? So, again, I said certain things. Here I am being responsible for the things that I said. That being said, the most controversial issue at hand was actually, for me, despite all the other things that, you should go watch the trial. I made it very clear that I didn't watch everything. And if you still chose to listen to my commentary, your comment shouldn't be, you should go watch the whole thing, you sound ignorant. I made it clear from the beginning. I did not watch the entire trial. What I didn't make clear was that was intentional. I intentionally did not watch the entire trial so I can take a position of neutrality when commenting on his closing arguments. Again, at a few points in those videos, I might have used a poor choice of words. Please forgive me for that. I'll try not to use poor choices of words in the future. But the most important thing that came out of this for me was the issue of jury nullification. And I think I even saw some law group comment on my video, which was interesting why they would take time to watch my video, but whatever. Um, Jury nullification, we have to talk about that. And I make a totally separate video about the issue of jury nullification, and not even particularly with this trial, but just jury nullification in and of itself. What is it? Why do you need to know about it? And why it's important to use it when it's applicable. Now, let me make these points. This is my last point, and I'm going to wrap this video up. It's already too long. Here's the thing. I specifically said that jury nullification did not apply to this case. I said that multiple times. People got upset with me for saying that the jury should have been informed of their power. I stand by that statement 100%. As I mentioned before in the video, juries don't go through training. They get jury instructions. That is not a training. Just because I tell you what to do does not mean you know how to do it. Okay? You can read any instruction manual. That does not mean you know how to do it, especially if you have no prior knowledge, no prior training. Okay? And so I advocate for juries to be trained. And a part of that training should include information and knowledge about jury nullification. Okay? Many people don't understand the purpose of jury nullification. Let me give a brief summary about the purpose of jury nullification. The purpose of jury nullification is not just to dismiss petty laws, like somebody mentioned a law that said you have to wear blue on Saturday could be nullified by the jury. That example ignores the real reason for jury nullification, which is to nullify unjust, unconstitutional, and abusive laws. Okay? That is the purpose of jury nullification. The jury can look at the situation and say so-and-so is guilty of said crime, but said crime is based on unjust laws, unconstitutional laws. Therefore, we find so-and-so not guilty because the law shouldn't even exist. That's the purpose of jury nullification. Just so that we're clear. Now, plenty of people brought up that there's a law in that jurisdiction, and maybe in many other jurisdictions, that no attorney, no judge, or anyone else can bring up the power of jury nullification. What I'm saying and trying to get you guys to understand, and I hope you think about this more thoughtfully, is that any law saying no one can inform the jury of the power of jury nullification is unconstitutional in itself. And should be nullified in court. Okay? Because to me, it shows malice and evil intent of lawmakers. You don't want the jury to know that they have power to look at your laws and say that they are unjust or unconstitutional. That's insane to me. They should know. They should know. They should have known, and the DA should have made the case that jury nullification did not apply to the jury. The same way he would try to make the case that it does apply. The DA can make the opposite case. It doesn't apply. And so for people to say, oh, he shouldn't have been able to bring it up, he shouldn't be able to bring it up. That's not just. That's not just. That's an attempt to keep the jury ignorant. That was the most important thing I pulled from this case, from what I did watch about this case. Even when you read about this case, which that's the reason why I kind of harped on the jury nullification, because what I read, I don't remember reading anything with anyone bringing up anything about jury nullification. Because unfortunately, it's a well-guarded secret amongst those who practice law. It's a guarded secret. It's kept guarded. I have my set of beliefs about why that is, but in this case, there's a law on the books saying that no one can inform the jury of the power of jury nullification, and I find that to be unconstitutional. Now, you might ask me, who am I to say something is unconstitutional or not? I could give you my qualifications, but I don't think that those qualifications matter. Everyone living under any jurisdiction should be able to read the laws, charters, constitutions, statutes, all of that, and look at them and say, this is either just or unjust. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to go to school for political science or this, that, and the third to be able to read the law for yourself and say, hey, I don't find that as just. I don't find that as constitutional. Or this looks like it's in violation of this principle in the Constitution, or this principle in the Declaration of Independence. So let's be clear about that. You have a room full of lawyers, because that's what most lawmakers are. You have a room full of lawyers who voted on a law to say you cannot tell someone else in a jury about their power during a trial. That's insanity. That's absolute insanity. That, to me, that skews the justice system by not giving the jury all of the information. All of the information. Again, it didn't apply to this case. But I took the time to address the issue because he brought it up, and I was commenting on his closing argument. So yes, I chose to address it. Other than that, I really have nothing else to say. Again, thank you guys for watching the video. I did comment to some of the comments. I did write and reply to some of the comments written. And even if someone disagreed with me, I said thanks for your comment, but I really couldn't comment or reply to everything, so I decided to make this video. Again, I hope that my intentions are now clear. I was trying to argue from a place of neutrality. I may have said things that had a poor choice of words. I also may have said things that I shouldn't have said, excuse me. But in all, from looking at the case, even from a neutral point, which is what I hope people didn't lose, even looking at the case from a neutral position, he was culpable and at fault for the death of 6 people and the bodily harm of 60 plus people. Period. Even if you gave him the benefit of the doubt. And so what Men Against Nonsense is about, okay, is identifying nonsense, pointing it out, trying to encourage men to take responsibility for their actions, and being positive influences on other men around them and in their circle of peers and friends. So please don't misunderstand what I'm trying to accomplish through this channel and the things that I do out in the world offline. And let me say this last thing is, be sure that you do more than spend time online and commenting on videos, but actually be a man against nonsense out in the public space. Okay? Hold the doors for older people. Help older people put their groceries in their cars. help young gentlemen not participate in foolishness when you see it. It's this is a movement. It's about action. It's not just about talking, and being keyboard warriors, right? That's not what this is about. Okay? But anyway, thanks again for listening and watching. God bless you guys. Have a good one.